Honourable Member for Calgary-Lougheed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All Albertans know about Serenity's tragedy, and recently the Office of the Child and Youth Advocate reviewed the tragic case of Peter. Peter, who was murdered 9 months after child intervention involvement had ended. Quoting from the report, Peter had asked many times for help, and many times he voiced his anxiety after reaching adulthood without a plan, alone, and struggling with addictions. To the Minister of Children's Services, since those leaving the child welfare system are vulnerable and require resources, what specific initiatives are you undertaking to address the gaps in services found during transition?
Honourable Minister of Children's Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. You know, Madam Speaker, the death of that young man was a tragic loss. Madam Speaker, it shows a number of things, including the impact of intergenerational trauma on our Indigenous peoples, and reminds us of the need to work towards reconciliation. It also talks to us about the importance of building caring relationships with the young people that we work with, that it is so critical that we ensure we are able to support them as they move to young adults. You know, Madam Speaker, moving to adulthood is hard for anyone, but for these kids, it is a mountainous challenge, and I commit to working with them.
Given that the report highlights the horrors that this young man experienced, including the loss of his parents and grandparents before he was 15, his brother's fatal overdose when he was 17, and the fact that he often did not have a stable, safe place to go, and given that the previous report from December 2015 also called for the ministry to ensure that young people within the system who have experienced trauma are adequately assessed and offered proper resources. Again, to the minister, what is your government doing today to improve outcomes for children in care who've experienced traumatic events so that what happened with Peter just never happens to anyone else ever again?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Unfortunately, that series of traumatic events is the real life of many youth that I talk to in my own riding. Madam Speaker, what happens to these children, what happens to many of our Indigenous youth is so traumatic, and they absolutely need support. So, Madam Speaker, we've begun implementing changes to better recognize and address the long-term impacts of grief, trauma, and loss on the youth that we support, and we will continue to work with the Child and Youth Advocate to strengthen the ways that we support Alberta's children and youth.
Second supplementary.
Given that many stakeholders have called upon the government to give the Office of the Child and Youth Advocate greater teeth in having their recommendations acted upon in a concrete manner by the government, and given that the following recommendations from the office in a serious, expedient manner would improve the system for all children, again to the minister, it is too late for Peter, but it's not too late for other children in transition. So are you considering expanding the powers of the Child and Youth Advocate to ensure that all recommendations are addressed and acted upon in a timely and meaningful manner?
Good question.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Certainly, in the report, the advocate noted that transition policies were in place. However, Madam Speaker, every young person faces different challenges, and we need to recognize their unique circumstances. Madam Speaker, I met with the Child Youth Advocate just this morning, had an incredibly productive meeting as we committed to working collaboratively together in full recognition of the fact that we both desperately want the same thing, and that is to improve the outcomes for Alberta's children in care. And Madam Speaker, I commit to working as closely as I can with him to make sure that